Brad, Crawford has been a busy, well-traveled man over the last few weeks. Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, how are you?
All right, so California, I'm good. California, Atlanta, and then did you make it to Disney?
We did make it to Universal this past weekend, and today is day 2 of me getting over flu A. So
Ooh.
no more crazy travel for me, thankfully, until media days this summer.
I hope 95 was better to you going down there than it was to us when we went.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't too bad.
All right, it was a train wreck. Before coming back, we flew the whole way. Well, how was the national championship experience?
It was a lot of fun, man. It wasn't quite the Rose Bowl. I enjoyed Los Angeles and just being out there in Pasadena, maybe a little bit more than Atlanta. Atlanta is something that I've seen before, but covering a national championship game was awesome. And I got to get a little preview of Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the Gamecocks opener against Virginia Tech. I think South Carolina fans who haven't been to that venue are going to love Mercedes-Benz, and it is a great place to watch a game. Every seat in that venue is top-notch.
Well, and I don't even know if you were able to venture up there or not, but I haven't been in there. I can't believe that I haven't been, but my understanding is the concession prices are like cheap or normal, if you will.
Slice of pizza was $2, hot dogs $2, burger and fries $5. What? I actually, so the media meal at halftime wasn't all that intriguing to me, so I left the press box and got some actual food with the people, with Ohio State and Notre Dame fans.
Which fan base did you enjoy more?
Man, I've only covered 2 Ohio State games in my career, and you know it's the blowout win over Oregon, and now this. So I've got OHIO just in my head nonstop now. It's all I hear. You know, I'm so used to Gamecocks, and now it's just OHIO everywhere.
Yeah, we got to get that fixed, Brad. That's gonna do some major damage before next year if that's all you're hearing for 8 months. Well, I'm glad you got to do all that. You earned it and deserved it. So congratulations on all that. It was neat to follow it too. And you've had a chance to be on Feinbaum. So we're going to give you a similar chance here. See, you do this from time to time, and then JC and myself, we have to get on here. We have to clean up all your damage.
Gives you something to talk about.
You put out lists, get everybody all, 9 o'clock. Somebody's been working all day, Brad. They come home, they cook food for their family, they get the kids in bed.
Yeah.
And they sit down and they pull up their phone. That damn Brad Crawford, he did it again. Freaking Cade Klubnik, he ain't worth it. So
the problem is, look, nobody ever reads the intro paragraph to these projections that I write.
Bingo.
It's not Cade is better than LaNorris. It's not, so-and-so is better than Nico. It's at the end of November 2025, which of these quarterbacks are going to have the best numbers and probably be in New York as a Heisman finalist. And I think with the returning wide receiver talent Cade Klubnik has coming back, with Clemson's favorable schedule next season, opening against LSU, that's a chance where if Klubnik throws 4 or 5 touchdown passes against LSU, he's the week 0 front runner. So there was great debate inside the 24/7 sports offices on who number 1 was. I didn't have Cade number 1 specifically, but several other analysts did, and it's kind of a numbered heads together type story. So yeah, Cade is our number 1 quarterback for 2025 projection wise. 36 touchdowns last season. I think he encroaches on 40 touchdown passes as a senior.
And to your point just a moment ago, we read this the other day. I'm going to read it one more time.
Yep.
This subjective list is heavy on expectations for next season, so we limited the scope to players on teams we expect to compete within or on the fringes of the top 25 throughout the year. These rankings are strictly based on what we've seen from each player on the field up to this point and how we expect the 2025 season to go from a statistical standpoint. And then you had conversations, you stated, with analysts and scouts and et cetera, et cetera. And as you also pointed out, it has to do with who are you playing against?
Correct.
And all those type things. So naturally, LaNorris Sellers playing in some of the other quarterbacks in the SEC playing against those defenses, and Cade Klubnik playing against some of the defenses he'll play against in the ACC, his stats probably are going to be a little inflated over others. So you have Klubnik at 1 because of everything there we literally just talked about.
And look, if LaNorris Sellers had Bryant Wesco and Antonio Williams and TJ Moore to throw to, he'd probably be the top quarterback in the country to me. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't have that. And South Carolina has not signed a premier level wideout yet this portal cycle. So there's still some questions I have of Gamecocks offense.
And to be clear, you're not saying he might not have that, but to your knowledge as of now, he does not have that yet.
Right. Yep.
Okay. All right. So interestingly enough, though, you've got Carson Beck at number 5. Okay. And I understand everything that we just talked about, but the other side of that coin is he's coming off of an injury, and transferring to a new team where he's going to. But the thing that I'm more concerned about than all that is taking all this money and going down to Miami, Florida with his girlfriend. That could affect a 22, 23, whatever he is, year old kid, but you've got him at number 5.
I think the most beneficial thing for Carson Beck is, he goes from likely a late day 2 pick in 2025, had he come out at Georgia this season, to potentially being the top quarterback taken in 2026 next spring, if he has the season that a lot of us expect him to have at Miami. He's no longer in a pro-style offense. He's going to be in a, tempo-based spread. We saw what that did for Cam Ward, kind of worked wonders for him. He might be the top pick here in a couple weeks in April. And now Carson Beck has a chance he's going to face softer defenses. The defensive talent, JB, in the ACC is not what it is in the Big Ten or the SEC. Now I think Carson Beck is going to raise his level of play as a result. The thing that sort of alarmed me for Carson Beck is he made more mistakes as a junior than he's made, his previous 2 years combined. He was starting to see guys that weren't there. He was throwing into underneath coverage that, just mistakes that you wouldn't expect from a, multi-year starter in the SEC. So Carson Beck is a guy that I think is going to be, one of the front runners to win the faux comeback player of the year award, because I do think he's still an elite quarterback.
Did you ever get or I don't know if you even looked around for one, but did you ever get any quality information that pertained to his decision to not actually enter the NFL draft and transfer to Miami? Was that strictly a monetary decision?
I think it had to be. I think he got some advice from various scouts or the NFL Drafts Advisory Board, and they pretty much told him you're not a day 1 selection. I'm actually surprised, and along those same lines, JB, I'm surprised Quinn Ewers has not pulled his name out either. I mean, if the estimated $8 million deal he was going to get from, the program that will not be named, it's Notre Dame, by the way. If that's true, then I'm surprised he's staying in, because I don't think Quinn Ewers is going to be a first-round pick.
Notre Dame? Well, so Notre Dame, wow, that would be something.
Notre Dame was certainly fishing for a portal quarterback. They've taken several in Marcus Freeman's tenure. First it was Sam Hartman at Wake Forest. Then it was Riley Leonard. Freeman said before the playoff that they feel pretty confident in the group they have now, but I do think if a high-end quarterback does enter the portal, maybe in the April cycle, Notre Dame will be one of those programs that reaches out.
They got plenty of money to spend, clearly.
Yep.
So also in these top 10 QB rankings of yours, Arch Manning is at number 3. Give us your synopsis there.
I've been an Arch Manning fan since the day he stepped on campus. I thought that he would have taken Texas to the playoff semifinal had he started all year, just like Quinn Ewers did. In the games that we have seen Arch Manning play, I mean, there's been flashes of, he is the premier top prospect, 5-star guy. It's going to be weird, man. He's not going to have the career that a lot of us thought he'd had, because he's only going to have one starting season. I mean, he's probably a 1-year starter and out after 2025 as a first-round pick next spring. But I do think Texas has enough talent around him, despite losing all these draft personnel guys, that Texas is going to be right up there, probably maybe my preseason favorite to win the SEC over Georgia. I just think Arch Manning's in a very good situation, whereas other elite quarterbacks like a LaNorris Sellers, so to speak, he doesn't have those, just crazy depth of playmakers around him the way Arch Manning in Texas does.
At number 9 is Diego Pavia.
He was not my choice to make this list.
Okay, so this was not just Brad Crawford put him at number 9, and I'm there's okay.
No, this is he's a Johnny Manziel type. He's not going to be a pro quarterback, in my opinion. He's prolonging his career. He got that extra year of eligibility. But look, you did win 6 games as Vandy's starting quarterback. That hadn't been done in like a decade since James Franklin was there. And you did beat number 1 Alabama in Nashville. That's never been done at Vanderbilt. The quarterback has a lot to do with that. Mm-hmm. Is South Carolina afraid of Diego Pavia next season? No. They pretty much know, what his best attributes are and what he does not do well. But is he a top-end SEC quarterback coming into 2025? Yes. Is he a top 10 player? I don't think he is, but everyone else I spoke to said you've got to have Diego Pavia in this top 10.
So I think he's going to be interesting to watch, because playing for Vanderbilt, who's kind of long been the man, don't you feel bad for those guys? You don't say that when they beat you. I mean, I don't think Alabama's saying that today. In Diego Pavia, like there's a likability factor about him in how he plays the game, but that same factor makes him very unlikable to some people too. But he is boisterous. He obviously has had a lawsuit ongoing in the middle of the year this year.
He pounds chest a lot. He does.
Yeah. Do you think he is?
He's Baker Mayfield without Baker Mayfield's talent. He's kind of a villain. He is a villain.
Yeah.
Those outside the SEC like Diego Pavia. Those inside the SEC, his shtick kind of gets old. But like I said, man, you lost by 3 to Texas. You beat Alabama. I mean, you've got some swagger that you can kind of speak on.
Kind of a Travis Kelce situation. There's a lot of people that like Travis Kelce, and a lot of people that it's nothing personal, but I'm just kind of tired of seeing it. If that makes sense. One of the more interesting case studies, though, I think at the quarterback position in the SEC is who is at number 10 here. Jackson Arnold going to the Plains and playing for Hugh Freeze. We know how talented he is. There's no question about that. And now he gets to go with a guy who generally can get quarterbacks going in the right direction. Obviously, by virtue of being on this list, there are high expectations for him from the staff at 24/7. What about you personally? What do you think about that fit?
Yeah, the number 10 spot for me, JB, was by far the toughest. I mean, I had Arnold there. DJ Lagway was an option. Nico at Tennessee was an option. John Mateer at Oklahoma, a guy that had 44 touchdowns last season at Washington State. The reason I put Jackson Arnold here is because I think Brent Venables too quickly pulled the plug on him last season. Oklahoma was playing its best football in November. And, had he not pulled the plug too early on Arnold in October, I thought Oklahoma maybe would have been a better team. But with the Hugh Freeze situation, I think the Tigers know offensively 2025 is it. Like if it's bad at the quarterback position again, Hugh Freeze is out. The Plains is going to open up, and maybe we see Deion Sanders come to Auburn or something. I would love Deion to be in the SEC, but I do think Hugh Freeze handpicked Jackson Arnold. He likes what he sees on film, and there's enough talent at wide receiver at Auburn around Jackson Arnold to be very good. Cam Coleman, 5-star. They paid $1.1 million for Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech, top receiver in the portal. So Auburn's a team that I would hit the over win total next season solely because Hugh Freeze's back is against the wall.
Circling back to LaNorris Sellers here, okay? We had a chance to have to speak with Coach last Monday here, and one of the things, Brad, that he brought up was the fact that not only was LaNorris Sellers a first-year starting quarterback at this point in time last year, he was kind of projecting to be the first-year starting quarterback. I think we all kind of knew that, but then he went through spring practice without three of his top wide receivers, and he had up front on the offensive line, he had a couple of new starters there. I mean, it just took some things a while. This go around, while they are changing leadership at the offensive coordinator position, it's not that much of a change. Mike Shula had more contact or as much contact with LaNorris Sellers as anybody this past season, and he called the bowl game. They do understand each other, and they seem to think this is a pretty good fit. But the thing that is in the right direction here, going back to what you mentioned a little bit ago about the wide receiver position, is those guys are here now. And I know that they've got a bunch of young dudes that have just gotten to campus. They're going to have to prove their worth, but their top guys are here. And one of them is Nick Harbor. And as we got to game 7, game 8, game 9, and so on, Nick Harbor looked more and more comfortable playing the wide receiver position. Now that he is foregoing this track season, what do you expect from him?
So right now, January 28th, I don't think Nick Harbor is a wide receiver 1 at South Carolina. Could he be 7 months from now when the season begins? Certainly. And I think this is a sign from Nick that he is football focused. Maybe he thinks his athletic career, professional career might be in football. And man, if he has a 900 to 1,000-yard season, it probably is given his specs. But I mean, to see his development rise, as you mentioned, just from last season to this 2024 campaign, I mean, that play that he made at Alabama in the corner of the end zone, that was like the 5-star play that we've been waiting to see out of Nick Harbor for 2.5 seasons. He's got to get more consistent as a route runner. There's been times where drops have been an issue. But as far as speed, athleticism, agility, I mean, he checks every box in that regard. I know him and LaNorris are really good friends, and LaNorris probably feels comfortable throwing in his direction. That's something that I saw last season too. The Gamecocks didn't have a ton of wide receiver talent that LaNorris looked all comfortable going with. I mean, on 3rd and 13, rather than look for a guy over the middle, if the first read's not there, I'm tucking the ball and running, and I'm getting a first down. Now, that worked out for South Carolina's offense in 2024. I think in 2025, you're going to see a maybe more mature Sellers from the pocket, go through more of his progressions and that sort of thing, and kind of be that NFL-type quarterback. But I will say this, too, about the new offense under Mike Shula. You don't really want to make LaNorris Sellers play within the confines of the offense. If he sees a rushing lane, man, he's good enough to have a 1,000-yard season on the ground. So you gotta let him go. Not worry about injury. Not worry about taking too many hits, because now you got a quality backup behind him in Aaron Nolan as well. So I think Sellers, sky's the limit for him. But I still don't see a wide receiver 1 right now in this room. And I think during the spring portal cycle, the Gamecocks will continue to add to their group of pass catchers.
Yeah, if they find one they like, they're going to do that. There is no question about that. I look at this group because I do like them. It's not that. But I look at it actually kind of similarly to some of what Coach Spurrier had when he was here. Like, there were many years, Brad, where you'd look and go, well, these guys are okay. Demir Bird and Bruce Ellington and so on. Yeah, they're good. And then they just go out and just make a bunch of plays. Yeah. They just develop. And they had a quarterback who probably brought them along a little bit faster than somebody else would have at the time. They had 2 quarterbacks, Connor and Dylan. I feel like maybe they're in a situation like that. I do know this. Mike Furry is a hell of a football coach. I mean, the way that they look at this guy in the building, he is incredibly. He recruits and he develops. I don't know what more he asked for. So hopefully the next.
Yeah, the biggest improvement I saw from the wide receiver group this season was just how well they blocked and sealed edges. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was very impressive. Gamecocks have a lot of explosive runs via Sellers and Rocket Sanders this fall because Gamecocks wide receivers block so well. Nick Harbor, I mean, he's one of the SEC's best at engaging and holding on to his man. 2 years ago, that wasn't the case with Nick. He was not a physical player. Now he is much more imposing and strong from a football playing standpoint. But I like what the Gamecocks have coming back at the wide receiver spot. Like I said, though, I just don't think if I'm an opposing defensive coordinator in the SEC, there's too many guys that I'm circling like, oh man, we got to bracket coverage him, or maybe he's a double over here. You know, there's still guys that have to emerge within that room.
We got about 4 minutes left, Brad, and we'll get you out of here. I do want to go back to something since we haven't spoken to you. You wrote about this probably about a week ago is when it came out. And the headline was potential college football playoff changes to improve the postseason product. I don't know if you can remember the 5 things you listed in there, but if you can, give us a synopsis of those things. You got to experience the whole postseason virtually on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, so give us your synopsis of what you wrote about.
So I was not a huge proponent a couple years ago of playoff expansion. I saw it as a complete money grab for college football, and I still think it was. However, being that now we're 2 weeks removed or so from the first expanded playoff, I mean, it was a raging success, man. More football is always welcome to me. You know, we saw the number 7 and number 8 seed make the title game as basically 2 wild card teams that didn't win conference championships. Ohio State lost its rivalry game to Michigan, then ran the table, playing its best football of the year. That's what a tournament champion is supposed to look like. So I do appreciate that. I think one of the big changes in the future, JB, has to be how we seed playoff teams. I don't mind having, you know, auto bids to conference champions. I don't mind the G5 highest ranked team being in, but don't necessarily put Boise State inside the top 4 if they're not one of the 4 best teams in the country. Let's just reseed completely. I think that, you know, we need to change the whole Rose Bowl's a permanent semifinal site and that kind of thing. Let's split the New Year's 6 bowls up. You know, maybe 2 semis and the title game are played at bowl sites and the rest are played on campuses. Now, based on everybody I spoke to in Atlanta, though, and the Rose Bowl, a lot of those programs told me that logistically it's just not going to work out to have multiple home games on your campus in December. It's too much staffing, and it's kind of a headache, to be honest. And then the last major change for me would be we cannot play the championship game at the end of January. That extends the season way too long. You know,
Agreed.
Coaches haven't – look, if Shane Beamer would have made the title game this year, he'd have had what, like 3 total weeks off in the offseason before he's back at spring practice? It's just crazy to me. But, you know, these coaches are handsomely paid. Shane's now at, 8.1. So, you know, you get what you pay for, I guess.
Well, to your point, I think that was one of the big things for me. I didn't realize how impactful it would be in my thinking until we got to the date. Now, this year, unlike most years, you had a lot going on that day. You had Inauguration Day, you had MLK Day. I already think it's ridiculous that they play this thing on Monday night. And then every once in a while you hear people talk about ratings. I'm like, oh, that's a bunch of baloney. I don't want to hear about that. It's a national championship game.
Yeah.
You play it on a Monday night. You really think you won't get the ratings on a Saturday night? Of course you will. I think that the NFL and college football need to figure this out together. Like JC, I thought had an awesome point. Hey, I know that they start these games early now in the NFL, Saturdays and Sundays. Great. That's even better for college football. You know, play one at 1 and 1 at 4. Those divisional round games, or I guess they'd be wild card games. And then that night at 7:30 on ESPN, you could even do it at 8 if it's a Saturday. Play the national championship. I mean, they could. How great would they do this for the draft, Brad? You watch the draft in Detroit or wherever it is, and you got Herb Street sitting out there and all these guys talking about who these guys were in college. You could have some of those NFL guys sitting there talking about who they think they'll be in the pros. I mean, this would be a great blend of everything. I just think that with all the money and all the people and everything, all the interest, it almost felt like, oh yeah, there's a national championship game today. I forgot the season's still going. I think they need to fix that big time.
I think the best part about this expanded playoff television and viewer wise is, we got the Rose Bowl on its one day. We got the Sugar Bowl. Unfortunately, because of the event in New Orleans, it got its own day. We got the Orange Bowl, Penn State, Notre Dame on its own day. When we don't have 3 or 4 playoff games on the same day, I think that benefits college football. Each of them kind of have their own, prime time setting. But I do like, the fact that December 31st and January 1st are still 2 huge days for college football. In the Rose Bowl, by the way, it's not going to be moved from January 1st, and it's just not going to happen. But I'm excited about the future of expansion, and I think we moved to at least 14 teams by 2026.
I agree with that.